Hello, humans. I am Scott Cannon coming to you live on WLTH 1370 AM from the greatest city in all the world. Gary, Indiana. And this is the Counterpoint. Well, folks, if you've been listening to the powers that be in the mainstream corporate press over the past 3 years and their political handlers in our government, then I am sure that you've heard all about the accusations of Russian meddling in our elections and government affairs, which has been portrayed as an act of war by our government and press. Because after all, the worst thing a foreign government can do is meddle in the affairs of a sovereign nation, right? Well, color me shocked. This morning when I woke up and saw our Vice President, Mike Pence, on television today, announcing that he and the Trump administration were going to completely disregard the will of the Venezuelan people and declared that their elected president, Nicolas Maduro, was a usurper. And at the same time recognized the president of the Venezuelan National Assembly, Juan Guaido, as the true president of the oil-rich nation. But wait, I thought that meddling in other countries' affairs was an act of war. I digress. But we all know what it is, and we all know what it has been. The United States government and its allies have been trying to overthrow Venezuela's left-wing government for 20 years now, since their now deceased former president, Hugo Chavez, came along, wresting Venezuela's oil fields away from America and the right-wing imperialists. See, Venezuela has more oil than Saudi Arabia, Canada, and Iran. In fact, they have the most confirmed oil reserves on the entire planet. So you can see why Washington and the transnational capitalist class wants to get their hands on the South American nation. But Hugo Chavez and his socialist movement got in the way of that. He nationalized Venezuela's oil reserves, spending the money on the people instead of allowing the wealthy elites to get their hands on it. He increased social spending over 60%. Reducing poverty from over 70% in 1996 to just under 20% in 2010. He reduced wealth inequality by 44%, leading Venezuela to have the lowest wealth equality index in the entire South American region. He, like his good friend in Cuba, Fidel Castro, spent generously on educational programs, lifting Venezuela to the top 5 in the world in its proportion of university students. Venezuela eventually even tied Finland as the 5th happiest country in the world under Chavez. So, the corporate capitalists in our government couldn't take that. It also didn't help that Chavez flaunted his lack of respect for the United States government in everyone's face, actually offering aid and comfort to the Americans who had their homes and lives destroyed in Hurricane Katrina in 2005. But he found out that when you make an enemy of the United States government, you make a powerful enemy indeed, as Chavez was at one point kidnapped at gunpoint and held hostage by Venezuela's Chamber of Commerce, who happen to be good friends of George W. Bush, who is very classy, if you ask Michelle Obama and the liberal media, and also oil companies Exxon and Chevron. The only reason that he wasn't assassinated at that point was because he was so popular and beloved in Venezuela that the people came out and would have burned the entire country to the ground had he been killed. When Chavez eventually died in 2013 of cancer, his successor Maduro was immediately targeted by the US and its allies, who even manipulated the price of oil just to hurt Venezuela's economy and imposed sanctions designed to starve the Venezuelan public into overthrowing their government. Just a few months ago, Maduro survived an assassination attempt that most people are pretty sure was plotted by the United States and Colombian governments. And now the US and their right-wing friends in Ecuador, Colombia, and that new fascist in Brazil, who once told one of his co-workers that she was too ugly to rape, have all decided that Maduro has to go or risk being assassinated. Like so many left-wing leaders that oppose the US government and capitalism, including Patrice Lumumba of the Congo, Salvador Allende of Chile, and Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. Now, of course, none of this surprises me, but I hope it shows you the true motivations of our dishonest politicians and media in this country who claim to be so offended by the concept of foreign interference in government affairs. Okay, folks, chop it up with me on Twitter at The Chemist Lives. The Chemist is spelled with K, as I am a product of the Gary Community School System, and we could talk about politics, music, sports. You could tell me how terrible I am at my job, or you could tell me how terrible I am at this job, and listen to me every Monday from 6 to 8 on Issues and Answers with Jonathan Boose. I am Scott Cannon. That was the Counterpoint on WLTH 1370 AM. God bless the working class. God bless labor. And I am out, humans.